In 1994, Japan opened an airport built entirely on an artificial island in the middle of Osaka Bay. No land, no bedrock, no solid foundation of any kind. An island constructed from 180 million cubic meters of landfill dumped into 18 meters of ocean water on top of a seabed of soft clay and alluvial deposits that engineers knew, with mathematical certainty, would compress under the weight. The island would sink. Not might sink, would sink. Every geotechnical engineer who reviewed the project agreed on this point. The question was not whether Kansai International Airport would subside into Osaka Bay. The question was how much, and whether the engineers could design an airport that would still function while sinking beneath it. Before construction began, the project's lead engineers made a prediction. The island would settle by approximately 6 meters over the first 3 years. They were wrong. The actual settlement in the first 3 years was 8.2 meters. They had underestimated the compressibility of Osaka Bay's seabed by approximately 37%. And the airport was already open. Passengers were flying. Aircraft were landing on an island that had sunk 2 meters more than anyone predicted. What they did next, to save an airport that was sinking faster than the physics allowed, is one of the most remarkable engineering decisions in the history of construction.
To understand why Kansai was built in the sea at all, you need to understand the problem it was solving. By the 1960s, Osaka's existing airport, Itami Airport, was completely surrounded by urban development. There was no land available for expansion. Noise complaints from the surrounding population had generated legal restrictions that limited operational hours so severely that the airport could not function as an international hub. Japan needed a new airport to serve one of the world's largest metropolitan areas. But every piece of land within acceptable distance of the city was already developed. The solution, proposed by architect Renzo Piano and structural engineer Peter Rice, was to create new land in the sea, 4 kilometers from the nearest shore, in water 18 meters deep, in a bay whose seabed geology made traditional pile foundations physically impossible. The soft clay layer extended 18 meters below the waterbed, itself extending down to a layer of alluvial deposits another 80 meters deep, before reaching anything approaching stable ground. A pile foundation to reach stable substrate would have needed to extend 100 meters below the bay surface. At the scale required for a full international airport, the number and size of piles required was calculated to be physically unachievable with any construction technology available in the 1980s. So the engineers chose a different approach entirely. Instead of fighting the sinking, they designed the airport to sink with it, and to keep working while it was sinking.
The engineering solution to a sinking airport was a building system that had never been attempted at this scale before. Individual hydraulic jacks built into the foundation of every structural column in the main terminal building. The terminal building sits on 900 individual columns. Each column has a hydraulic adjustment system at its base. Every month, a team of engineers measures the precise height of every column relative to a fixed reference datum. When differential settlement occurs, when one part of the building sinks faster than another, the hydraulic jacks on the higher columns are used to lower them to match the sinking sections. The entire building is continuously being leveled, column by column, every month, to compensate for the uneven subsidence of the island beneath it. This process, called controlled settlement compensation, has been performed continuously since 1994. It has prevented the terminal building from developing the structural cracks and differential deformation that would occur if the foundation settled unevenly without correction. But the terminal building, as extraordinary as its adaptive foundation is only the most visible part of the engineering solution. The runway and apron areas, the concrete surfaces on which aircraft weighing up to 560 tons land and taxi every day, cannot be adjusted with hydraulic jacks. They use a different system. Precast concrete panels designed with deliberate gaps between them, gaps that are filled with an adjustable grout mixture that can be removed and replaced as settlement occurs, allowing the runway surface to be re-leveled incrementally without removing and replacing the primary structural panels. The entire airport is a machine for managing its own disappearance.
In September 2018, Typhoon Jebi, the most powerful typhoon to strike Japan in 25 years, made direct landfall over Osaka Bay. Wind speeds at Kansai Airport exceeded 230 kilometers per hour. A 2,591-ton tanker vessel, the Tanker Analyst, broke free from its moorings in the storm surge and was driven by wind and wave into the only road and rail bridge connecting Kansai Airport Island to the mainland. The bridge was damaged. For 24 hours, Kansai International Airport was completely isolated. No road access, no rail access, no way off the island except by boat or helicopter. Approximately 3,000 passengers and airport staff were stranded. The storm surge peaked at 3.29 meters above normal high tide level, high enough to inundate the first floor of the terminal and flood the runway system to a depth of 80 centimeters. The question that the engineers had always known they would eventually have to answer, whether an airport built below the natural floodline of a typhoon-prone bay could survive a direct strike, was answered definitively in September 2018. The answer was, mostly. The terminal structure survived without major structural damage. The hydraulic adjustment systems survived the floating. The runway surfaces, designed for controlled settlement, proved equally resilient to the sudden water loading of the storm surge. Within 17 days, Kansai Airport had restored full operations. But the typhoon revealed the third impossible problem that the engineers had always known was coming. The island had sunk enough over its operational life that its flood protection was now thinner than designed. The original seawall had been built to a height that assumed a specific future sea level. The island had sunk below that assumed level. The future sea level was now higher than planned, from a combination of the island's ongoing subsidence and global sea level rise. The airport was simultaneously sinking into the sea, and the sea was rising toward it.
As of today, Kansai International Airport has settled approximately 13 meters below its original construction level. Not 6 meters, as the original prediction estimated. 13 meters, more than twice the predicted settlement. The engineers who designed the hydraulic compensation system built it to accommodate up to 11.5 meters of settlement. The airport has already exceeded that design specification. Remediation work, raising the seawall, extending the settlement compensation systems, reinforcing the runway foundations, has been ongoing since 2018 and is currently projected to continue into the 2030s. The total cost of the original construction of Kansai Airport, adjusted for inflation, was approximately $20 billion. The total cost of ongoing maintenance, remediation, and settlement compensation is now estimated to exceed the original construction cost over the airport's operational lifetime. Japan is paying for the airport twice. And yet, Kansai International Airport handles approximately 25 million passengers per year. It is the primary international gateway for the Kansai region, an economic zone of 22 million people that would have no viable international aviation access without this island. It works. Imperfectly, expensively, continuously managed, but it works. Every landing on Kansai's runway touches a surface that was not land 2 generations ago. Every passenger who transits through its terminal walks across a building that is actively being adjusted, hydraulically, monthly, to remain level while the earth moves beneath it. The island is still sinking, the sea is still rising, the engineers are still watching, and the aircraft keep landing on an island that was never supposed to exist, managed by an engineering system that was never supposed to be necessary, that has worked continuously for 30 years. Follow for more about the engineering decisions that solved impossible problems and the costs of keeping those solutions working forever.